Okay, so I have got an Advantage 2 Kinesis keyboard that I'm going to start trying out. Um, I've had it, I got it a couple days ago, and so far I'm not completely enamored with the thing. I'm finding that some of the keys I'm actually hitting the wrong key, which I never have a problem on my other keyboard. So I'm not sure how this experiment's going to go, but over the next week, I'm going to give this a solid week of actually using it to program and use my computer just like I do every day. Like I said, at the moment, I'm pretty frustrated with it because I'm making mistakes that I hardly ever make on the other keyboard. I'm typing a little slower than I do on the other keyboard. It is comfortable to use, so I'm hoping that I can get used to it. Having my backspace key and my space key, where they are is a little weird, and the enter key especially. I'm finding myself having to really think about what I'm doing with the enter key. But we'll see what happens after a week of playing around with it. And I was going to do a quick test here on typing.com just to, let's get out of this. I don't want a certificate. I want to go back and let's do quick sentences. So we'll just do a couple. See, I made a mistake there. I made a mistake again, and it's me barely getting off and getting onto the wrong key. Made another one. And I have to kind of, I'm just not used to it yet, so I don't want to judge it too much yet. We'll see how it goes. But at the moment, if I was doing this on the other keyboard, I'd be 10 times faster. So that was 84 words a minute, but the and I'm going back and correcting my words and stuff if I mess up. But we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna go over for the next week. We'll come back and revisit this and see. This keyboard was actually, it came out what, 5, 6, 7 years ago. They haven't had a major update to it in 7 years. So or somewhere around there. So it's not something that they're continually making better. It is also probably the most expensive keyboard on the market, other than going with a homemade keyboard that that somebody's making for you. But just for a production made keyboard, the keyboard it's very light. It's made out of pretty much solid plastic. It's fairly sturdy. I don't really have any. It doesn't bow at all. So and I kind of like for it to be light because then it's easier to carry around and use. So, and the one downside to it is that if you really do get good at it, you're going to have to carry it around with you everywhere because the keys are just completely. These keys are all pretty similar. But the having the backspace and the enter and all this stuff down here by your thumbs is a little weird. So it's going to take some getting used to get my hands going in the right position. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I'm on about my third day of working with the keyboard. Most of the first 2 days I've been working on the typing tutor, but today is the day that I'm actually going to start using it for work. And I wanted to point out a few things that I'm already severely disliking about this keyboard. So I use Linux to do most of my programming and most of my work, and so some of the things that I do, for example, the Windows key is over here. On my computer keyboard, the Windows key, the Control, Alt, and Windows key are all right here by my thumb. So, for example, if I wanted to do an Alt Tab on my other computer, it's literally Alt Tab with my pinky. With this computer, I have to come over here, or with this keyboard, I have to come over here and hit Alt, and then I have to go all the way over here to get to the Tab key. So it's a huge stretch to get over to that position, and I'm having to move my hands off of the home rows to do this because it's kind of hard to push the Alt key without pushing either one of these other keys. So I kind of have to pick my hand up, stretch over here to the Alt to Tab key, and then cycle through whatever programs I want to do to get back, and then I have to come back to the home key. That's one thing. The other thing is some of the keys don't really work the same way they do on my keyboard. So as an example, if I hit the Windows key, which on this keyboard is here, again on the regular keyboard is right here by my thumb. So I've got all of those keys, easy access to all those keys. But when I hit the Windows key here, it doesn't do anything. So what it normally does is it opens up my icon bar on the left to be able to pick an application that I want to run. Here I have to hit the Windows key and A to get all of that stuff to come up. So that's a little bit annoying, to have to hit both of those keys. And then the only way to get out of that process is to hit the escape key, which is this tiny little key up here at the top. So that's a little bit annoying. So another thing that happens in Linux is if I want to copy text from the command line, so I'm in a terminal in a shell and I want to copy text from that terminal, I have to hit Control Shift C to copy, Control Shift V to paste, Control Shift X to cut. So it's a matter of two fingers here, Control Shift, and then CV, whatever. I'm all on one hand and one, doing this. In order to do this, I have the Control key again is up here instead of where it normally is, but I hit Control, then I have to come over all the way over here, so it's a fairly good stretch to get to Shift, and then I have to look down here in this well to find the C or the V for whatever it is I'm wanting to do to copy those things. So it's a pretty big stretch for something that I literally do all day long. So I'm finding that a little bit annoying. The other thing, let's see, what in this enter key, having the space and the enter key sitting beside each other, I'm really finding it difficult to get to this enter key. And I'm hoping after a week of doing this that I'm going to get better at this. But right now I'm finding this enter key extremely ill positioned and hard to get, because I'm used to hitting it right here off of my pinky, and now I'm having to come in between these other keys to get to it. So those are just a few. Another thing is in Linux, if I wanted to open up another tab, so I have a terminal session open and I want to open up another tab to do something different, I would hit Control Shift T, and it's literally boom boom boom. On this I have to hit Control, and then I have to come over here to hit Shift and then T here. So it's a bigger movement to try to do that. And I recognize the fact that these are programming things or Linux related things, but these keys that I'm hitting are fairly standard keystrokes. It's not like I'm doing anything, because if I was on Mac it'd be something similar, except I'd have to hit Command whatever, and that is where it comes in. So again, instead of my Control Alt and Tab being right here with my thumb, now I've got a Windows key way over here that I've got to remember and get into my memory that this is where I've got to go to get to that Windows key. So it's a little bit, weird the way this is set up. So, and then my arrow keys, up and down and left and right arrow keys, I'm having a hard time finding those. I do realize on my other keyboard I'd have to move down here to do it, but it was always a move and right back to home. And here I actually find myself, when I go to hit the period, it's so close to the L key that I'm finding myself actually hitting a little bit farther down, or hitting two keys at the same time and having to back up to fix that. So those are just a few of the problems that I'm having right now. I'm hoping that I get over that as the more that I use this. But right now I'm really having a hard time using this as a work keyboard where I'm actually programming. So after the first day of work typing on this, so this is about my fourth day of actually using the keyboard, first day of actually working with the keyboard. I'm actually I'd like to say that I'm getting more comfortable with it after 4 days of typing on it, but I can honestly tell you that it is all I can do to not reach back over and get my other keyboard. I'm going to force myself to go at least a week with this keyboard before I give up on it, but at the moment I'm finding some of the keys a little too close together, and I'm actually starting to, I'll hit two of the keys instead of the one that I'm trying to get, and then this enter key is still bothering me. The Alt Tab is still a huge stretch. I've gotten the Windows key, I'm just hitting it with this and the A to pull up since it's not working properly. So I'm getting a little bit better with it, but I'm really kind of surprised at how much time it's taken to get this. I'm also finding my number keys up here at the top very frustrating to get to, because I don't really know why. But I'm just to sit here and type them, it's just a little weird. So again, I'm not giving up yet. I'm going to keep using it for at least a week, but at this point, if you were to ask me what I was going to do with the keyboard, it would most definitely be to return it, because I'm really kind of shocked at how much difficulty I'm having with it. I can type, I can sit and do a typing tutor and get 80 words a minute off of it, but the day-to-day things of just sitting here and writing code and moving around, adding brackets and using your arrow keys and doing all that kind of stuff, I'm just finding it extremely time consuming to try to having your up and down arrow keys over here and your left and right arrow keys over here. It's very weird. But again, I'm gonna keep trying it and try to get used to it. The one thing I will say though is these are Cherry Max Brown switches, which are the same as my other keyboard over here, but they're very loud. I don't know if it's because of the case that they're in, but they're that's the key here. So if I were to just to kind of give you an example, and it's almost a hollow sound, and it's almost like it's just the keyboard itself that's so I don't know what the deal is there, but I'll keep playing around and see what we can do. Again, I'm not going to give up until the whole week is out. Okay, this is the Kinesis keyboard, and I'm hitting the letter K. This is the DAS keyboard, and I'm hitting the letter K. Again, the Kinesis. And the DAS. Okay, so this is day 5 of the keyboard. I still have not gotten the Windows key to work properly on Linux. I'm working with Kinesis on that, and so far nothing has happened on it. Putting the rubber washers on the bottoms of all of these boards has helped a lot on the sound. This keyboard is still louder than the other keyboard that I have with the same keys, and I'll put a video, I'll put an audio clip up of each one of these and which one sounds, so you can kind of see what the difference is. I have, after 5 days of typing on it, I have gotten to where I can type as fast on this. I'm about 70 words a minute on this versus the other keyboard. Now, keep in mind that that 70 words a minute is correcting mistakes. I'm not just typing, I'm actually making sure that I'm typing everything exactly right. So if I make a mistake, I go back and fix it. And I'm doing that on both keyboards. So we're sitting around 70 words a minute, 100% accuracy between the two keyboards. I'm not comfortable with my backspace and my enter key. When I'm going at it, I can kind of get it, but if I have to think for even half a second, I'm like, I keep wanting to hit a dash for the backspace. So I still have a little ways to go with getting used to this thing before I'm flying around as far as programming goes, because I use the VI editor, and it has a lot of escape keys and then navigation keys and stuff, and I'm still kind of floundering around with that a little bit, but I'm definitely getting more comfortable with it. I can tell you that going from this keyboard back to the old keyboard that I absolutely love, I've been using that thing for years. I'm actually preferring this keyboard now. So despite the fact that I'm still not comfortable with the keys, having to hit the command key with my right hand or the control key to do different key combinations, it's still a little unwieldy and uncomfortable. I haven't remapped anything on here. It's all the default key mapping. So at some point I may start messing around with that, but I wanted to kind of give it a go without making too many changes. The num keypad, this is basically where you hit the keypad button here, and then you can use these keys for your number pad. Surprisingly, it works really well, and it's not that big of a deal to hit the thing, type in my numbers, and hit it again to get out of it. So I'm pleasantly surprised with how fast I can type the numbers. With a little bit of practice on it, and I'll start doing some typing tutor stuff on the number pad, but it's it works surprisingly well. So it almost gives you a number pad with the keyboard, just hitting one key. I don't know what the little sound is for that they put in there, but it's not that big of a deal. So overall, at this point, I'm happier than I was when I started. I will tell you that from the perspective of picking up a new keyboard and learning it, this has been a very frustrating process. there's been a number of times that I wanted to just pick this thing up and set it aside because I needed to get something done quick, and it was just getting in my way. But I've kind of found that I'm typing just as fast on this as I am the other one now, so it's not really that big of a deal. So that's where we're at. What the plan is we're on day 5. I'm definitely able to use this keyboard now just as good as I can the other one, so I'm gonna keep messing around with it. I'm still not good on these keys on my thumbs. I'm still kind of floundering down here, but I can see that if I continue to use this thing every day, that I will get faster on this than I was the old keyboard, because a lot of this stuff I'm not having to move my hands to do this, and so the more I get in my head that this is the backspace and this is the space and enter, where I'm not having to think about it, I think I'm gonna be much happier with this keyboard. It is a rather goofy looking keyboard, and it's very light, so like I said yesterday, the keys have a ringing sound to them, so I think that from Kinesis' standpoint, I think they could stand to go back to engineering and spend a little bit more time testing these keys to get them smoother, because when I was talking to them, they basically made the comment that these Cherry Max Browns, that's just the way they are, that they ring like that anyway. But as you'll see in the sound test that I'll put up here in a second, that's not the case, because the old keyboard I have is smooth as glass, and these are just not. I mean, you can kind of just from here, and I'm hitting those the same pressure. So it is definitely a noisy keyboard. They do have another version that has the quieter keys on it, but I don't like those keys. I prefer the Cherry Max Browns. They have the best feel for me for typing. So I'll deal with the noise to have the keys that I want, but there can be some. This is fixable. I mean, and I'm going to keep messing around with it. I'm thinking about getting something to insulate the inside of the case, because right now it is a hollow case made completely of plastic, and so it has a ringing of its own. And I think that these keys are just because of the shape of it, it's just taking the noise and everything and amplifying it, just like a speaker would. So hopefully I can figure out some way, and if I do, I'll do a video on what I did to it. But not as disappointed with it as I anticipated I would be. There was a day that I thought I was going to return it, but I think I'm going to keep it and see how it goes for another week. So the plan is I'm putting this video up to kind of show what this keyboard looks like in 5 days of actually using it every day. And to be clear, I have been doing typing tutor stuff on it and working on it, so I've been programming. I find myself getting more used to it in programming than doing the typing tutor. The typing tutor stuff is kind of stuff you don't do all day. I mean, unless you're dictating or something. The sitting down and programming, where you're having to move around and do different things over and over, tends to get you more comfortable with the keyboard than just doing typing tutors. But I've been doing both. So I'm going to come back in another week or two, and I'll do a summary video of where I'm at that point, and whether I'm keeping the keyboard or whether I'm going to be returning it. But at this point, I think I'll be keeping it. We'll just kind of see how it goes in another week.